Hello and welcome to Spellbound with Beth Ann. I'm your host, Beth Ann Gallagher. I've run the blog Spellbound with Beth Ann since 2008. It normally focuses on classic and silent film, but today it's special for the Luso World Cinema Blogathon. I'm getting into the world of contemporary and indie film, although there is a historical period twist to some of this that we're going to be talking about. And just to let you know a little bit about the Luso World Cinema Blogathon, I have Portuguese heritage, and I've always thought that Lusitanics, people from the Portuguese-speaking worlds and cultures, really aren't well known in the U.S. Their creative output is not well known in the U.S. So I founded the Blogathon with a Brazilian film writer, Letícia Margalhães. This will be the 4th edition now, and my first with a live interview guest for you. She is also at least a partial product of the Portuguese diaspora as well. This is indie filmmaker Alyssa Botelho. Hi.
Hi.
Yes. So glad that you could make this. Before we get into your filmmaking, to tie it into the blogathon, let's talk a little bit about your Portuguese heritage background. Is it one side of the family, both sides of the family?
It's just on my dad's side. So my dad is full Portuguese,
Mhm.
um, Botelho,
Mhm.
and yeah, so both of his parents, their parents came from Portugal. So it's a little bit distant, but yeah, I'm proud of it and I really want to learn more about it.
I feel like even though I'm a different generation than you, I'm Gen X, and let's see, would you be
I
younger
don't know.
younger millennial or
I
elder Gen Z?
I think, yeah, I never know. Me and all
Yeah.
my friends talk about this. I think we're like right in between millennial and Gen Z. It's that weird time period. I was born in 1999.
Yeah, and I was born in 1973. So,
Yikes.
but I find myself a little bit like you, where my great grandparents were the immigrant generation. My grandparents on my mom's side were the first generation born here, and they were very assimilationist. So they didn't pass on the Portuguese language to my mom or to me, even though they were both bilingual in English and Portuguese. So in a way, with this blogathon, I hope to not only shine a light, but even in an area that we grew up in, there are a lot of people with connections to the Lusophone world, and there's been a lot of assimilationist feelings because of the overculture's attitudes here. And I hope that this helps to reverse it and helps to celebrate it a little bit.
Absolutely. I love what you're doing. This is amazing.
Did you find your family was a little more assimilationist too, or how were they with the culture?
Definitely. Yeah. So my dad, I don't think he knows like any Portuguese, maybe a few words here and there. Um, and his parents grew up speaking it, but once they got into the school system and working and in factories, they really lost it. So, I'll ask them some questions about their heritage, and my grandma knows more than my grandpa. And for the language itself too, it's like kind of spotty, and yeah, that assimilationist attitude's definitely huge in my family.
So we're both reclaimers.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, reclaimers.
Well, now let's get into your background a little bit. We're both Fairhavenites. We're both from Fairhaven, Massachusetts, and I know we're both products of the Fairhaven school system. And I want to hear about how Fairhaven led you on your filmmaking journey. I think it was high school.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, Fairhaven is the reason why I'm in film. Since I was really little, I always wanted to be a writer. So I was growing up inside the Millicent Library in Fairhaven, which anyone from the area knows is a gorgeous building, so full of history. And it was in at Fairhaven High School under Drew Furtado's media class that I learned how to make films and put my writing passions and skills into a visual format and combine the two loves. So, yeah, Fairhaven High School is where I learned how to make films. And then from there, I went to college at the University of Rhode Island and I double majored in film and business management. So yeah, it really all kicked off in little old Fairhaven.
And I think that's great because you've got the creative side that wants to write stories, tell stories, and you've also got a business side. And I think when a lot of people fantasize about the film industry, they don't think about the business aspects of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You need the business sense to make the dreams into a reality, which is not super fun to think about, but when you're actually doing it and you're making it real, it's like, okay, this is great.
Now, how did you go from being inspired by your media class to studying film and business to getting that student Emmy? Tell me about your student Emmy.
Yeah, yeah. So that is something that at Fairhaven High School, our teacher Drew Furtado was always great about putting our work out there. So it didn't just exist within the school system. He wanted to share it and show that, the things that you make can have an impact on more people than you'd imagined. And um, so he was entering our work into high school Emmys. And every year I'd have a piece to enter, and every year I only got honorable mention or nothing at all.
Oh,
So it was like, and I have a big competitive streak too. So I was like, oh man, like I need that Emmy. Um, but yeah, so I kind of grew to learn that it's not just about the awards and um, the piece itself and how it impacts people is really what I care about. And ironically, when I started to really get that, I was in college and making things and just entering them out of habit more so. And my capstone film at URI, it's called To Dust I'll Return, and it's like a early 1700s, late 1600s piece inspired by the Salem witch trials. We shot it in Bourne, and it's a simple piece, but tackling a different time period is a lot, and we just focused all of our energy, me and my team, on this little vignette, and yeah, just entered it out of habit, and it won Best Short Fiction and Best Director from the college section of the New England Emmys.
congratulations. And for the viewers that and listeners that haven't had a chance to see your movie, without any spoilers, can you talk a little bit about its actual plot?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It follows a girl who's living alone, and which is already unusual for the time period. And we don't really know the situation with her parents, where they are. Um, she misses her mom, but we're not quite sure what's going on until a man of great power comes to her house, and it's basically revealing the situation just through their conversation and their power dynamics.
And there's a little bit of mystery, suspense, thriller, in addition to the historical aspect to it.
Yeah, definitely. It's very moody, very tense. Yeah.
Now, how did somebody who in another interview said she was never interested in history in high school, how did you get into covering historical topics in your work? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny you picked up on that because yeah, I was never into history. I thought it was like the most boring class in high school and middle school, memorizing dates and what happened in this point. They weren't real people to me. I didn't care. My dad has always been really fascinated by history and, World War One and Two. He's constantly watching new things. Um, so that was it was through him that I kind of saw that it could be more, but um, yeah, it was never really special to me. And then when thinking about what to do for my senior capstone class, I was thinking, okay, what excites me? What's cool? And I thought back to high school in theater when I performed in the Crucible, and we took a field trip to Salem and we saw the cemetery where these women were buried, and that just always really stuck with me. And how we took that, the real life, and these people became real, and we took it to the stage, and the atmosphere just changed on the stage. So that was my inspiration, and now all of a sudden that's like almost exclusively what I do is historical pieces.
Do you think for a while maybe it was easy to take history for granted because you grew up in Fairhaven and we constantly see pieces of history around us, from the high school to Fort Phoenix, which was a Revolutionary War fort, to even the beautiful Millicent Library. They're from other times, which can also give Fairhaven an otherworldly feel, like a time you're out of time feel.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I was born and raised in Fairhaven, and I think definitely took advantage of all the history that surrounds us. And like you said, otherworldly feel. Um, I went to, Fairhaven High School, and you show it to people from outside of the area. Like, for example, I was just at the New Bedford Film Festival, and people from Florida and Germany, and we're showing them pictures, and they can't even believe you went to high school there, and that's your library, and Fort Phoenix is just that way. Like, can I walk there? And um, yeah, so I think definitely took it for advantage at the time, but I think it like bled into me as a person, and now that I'm creating, it's coming out, which is great.
Now, when you were at your university, were you making films then in class and outside of class, or just in class?
Yeah, we did some, they called it class projects, and we made some films in class. They usually weren't awesome, but it was a good way to practice your skills and work with new people and how to run a film set and the tech side of it. But yeah, we always had a lot of fun, and the projects outside of class is where we would take it super seriously, and we're working with the unions and learning, insurance and recruiting locations on your own. And it's really like you have, however good it turns out is the amount of work that you put into it outside of class. So I loved that.
And it also sounds like you learned a lot about collaboration, which would take you into working into the field today. How important is it to you to be open to working with others to see your projects get done?
That is huge. You can be the most visionary filmmaker, but if you don't know how to work with others and get them inspired and excited, and you're on the same train moving forward, you're not going to make something that's special and that resonates with people. Um, Something that I'm really proud of is, like, anybody who's worked on one of my sets will say, like, it's a very family atmosphere, and we're having fun, but we're also getting a lot done. And it's cool because it's people from like all different parts of my life, which is really awesome. Like, I have some really close friends from high school who we did theater together and media, and they're on board. They're on every single project that we put together. And then I have some friends from college, and now they're really close with my high school friends. And maybe sometimes they work on stuff together on their own. Yeah, the people from my work life, it's like all different parts. Um, yeah, I just love when good people get together and they make something that they're excited about. It's the best.
In addition to seeing how collaborative you are with people, I also find you really empowered. I think there are earlier generations of women who either didn't go into film because they didn't realize they could go into film, or maybe was discouraged. Has it been tough for you at all as a woman in film, or have you found current working on sets and on films more open with working with women and more supportive with working with women?
Yeah, that's a great question, because in high school, I remember starting to realize that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I was sitting in the library in Fairhaven High School, and I was in between assignments, so I had my laptop and I looked up best film directors, and I was scrolling through, the Google results, and every single one of them was a man. And my heart kind of sank a little bit, and I thought, oh, is this just a thing that, it's women don't really do this, and if I want to do this, how will I make this work? And then I looked up best female directors, and of
Mhm.
course there's lots of amazing women who have made films. um Lois Weber being one of the first. Amazing, amazing, and revolutionary. But it just kind of broke my heart that you have to put the qualifier female director. It's like, no, these are amazing directors, period. Um, so that kind of broke my heart a little bit, but I stuck with it. And now in the modern, like in 2024, I really think there's been so much work that's been done, and there's so many opportunities for women, and people are, I think, are really focused on um raising them up too. Like Greta Gerwig is huge, just directed Barbie. Like I think we just live in a really great time right now, and I'm so thankful for the women who have put in all the hard work to kind of break those barriers. um yeah, like Catherine Bigelow to being like the one of the first and only, well, now we have another, but to win Best Director at the Oscars. Like there's been so much work that's been done, and I hope I can be a small part of that going forward.
Currently, your film that you've been working years on, your short, your long short maybe, Sweet Freedom, you are uplifting a woman in that too. You're bringing to light somebody who's historically important. But even though I grew up in Fairhaven, right next door to New Bedford, I had no idea about how important she was in this history. Can you tell us a little bit about Sweet Freedom and its heroine, a real life heroine?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny you say that too, that you didn't know who she was
Mhm.
growing up right next door, because I was in the same boat. And I think most people are from our area. They don't even know about this woman. Her name is Mary Polly Johnson, and she was born in the late 1700s on indigenous land in the Fall River Westport area. She herself is Afro-Indigenous. And her story is that she built from the ground up a very successful confectionery business. And at the time, like a business owner, a woman, Afro-Indigenous, and she built it in what was the richest city in the world at the time, New Bedford, in the 1800s. Um, so already incredible. And she had a family of her own, balancing a lot. But on top of that, her house was one of the most major stations on the Underground Railroad. And countless people came through her house, her and her husband, Nathan. And they're not even sure exactly how many people found freedom because of the Johnsons, but they do know one, and it's Frederick Douglass.
Yeah.
So him and his wife Anna, when they came up to New England, it was at the Johnson house. And even their last name, they came up as Bailey. For a little short stint, they became Johnson. And then their final last name, Douglas, is because of Nathan and Polly Johnson suggesting it to them. So just the impact that they had on so many people at that time in the pre-Civil War era was insane. Um, and the fact that we don't even know really who she is, and you have to dig, and there's some things online that we know about her, but the New Bedford Historical Society has done a great job preserving her legacy, and the very house where she was doing all this still stands, and that's where their office is located, and you can go to it for tours and seeing the space and learning more about her. But yeah, Sweet Freedom is it's a quick glimpse into her life in pre-Civil War, and it follows her and a family that they were housing, Betsy Gibson and her two young daughters. It gets complicated, but essentially they were sent up from Georgia to live with the Johnsons, and they're by their slave master, and that man died. And then it's kind of thrown into question, are they free? Are they not free? What's the right thing to do? What does she want to do? How do we keep them safe? Reuniting with family is a lot going on. And this is all true historical fact. There's some creative license in between, and the things that we don't know, but most of it is both based on historical facts. Yeah, so that's Sweet Freedom in a nutshell.
Now, how hard was it balancing historical truths and honoring real life people and creating a compelling narrative? Because it is a historical fiction film. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's very tricky, because the number one thing that I wanted to do was honor the real life woman and the real life stories and what we do know. But also keeping people engaged and realizing that this isn't a documentary, it's a narrative fiction piece. So finding the ways to grab people and take some truths, like, for example, slave hunters at the time, people who are hired in the South and would go to safe havens and grab people off the street. Horrible. And there is documented cases of that happening in New Bedford. It wasn't super common because it was such a stronghold, and there was abolitionist committees who would make sure those people would not come back. But yeah, we have some of that. So it's like, even though we do have two slave hunters in the film, they aren't real documented people, but they're based on historical figures. And then for me personally, recognizing that I'm a white woman and I'm not part of this culture, and I am also not a historian myself, so I don't, there's a lot missing there. I worked very closely with a woman, Jan De Silva, who she works at the New Bedford Whaling National Historical Park, and she's an incredible historian. Very well educated, very involved in the New Bedford community specifically. So we spent a few months every week going over the drafts, and she totally shaped it into something it finds that balance between real historical fact and entertainment.
It sounds like her work was invaluable.
Yes, absolutely. She's incredible, and she specializes in Afro studies herself. So, and she is a Black woman, so it's like she is a key member of the team for sure.
And you beat me to a question, because I was going to ask how you handled it as a white woman covering this topic matter outside of your sphere like that.
It's a big responsibility, and I don't take it lightly at all. And I know that when it does come out, there'll be speculation and things like that. But for me, it's just all about Polly and working with the right people and just giving the gifts that I was given in filmmaking and the skills I've developed, and just trying to lift up a woman who should be a household name.
And that sounds very well intentioned, very, very thorough, and using your platform for good, because you do have a platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's get into something that you recently just participated in. The New Bedford Film Festival is very first edition. How did you get involved with the New Bedford Film Festival?
Yeah, so yeah, super exciting. The New Bedford Film Festival went great, and I think it's the perfect time for it. And there's so much talent here, and it's just so exciting. I got involved with it last year. The founder, Ethan Diagyar, was telling me and one of my close collaborators, Carly Byers, who's another powerhouse in the local film community, and she was one of my producers on Sweet Freedom. Um, we had a meeting all together, and he was telling us that, you know, the idea that he had to have a film festival is actually coming to fruition, and he's been pounding the pavement on it and working with all the right people and organizations. And he asked Carly and I if we wanted to be involved and be on the board. And we were both like insanely busy, so we were like, let's think about it. And we took like a day, and then we were like, we have to be a part of this. Come on, like we can't not. We'll find the time. Like it's okay. We'll sleep a little less. It's fine. But yeah, it was really great, and Ethan's awesome. Um, yeah, and it's cool to get all these film resources together, and the mission is to highlight the whole South Coast as a place to be for film, for people who are growing up here and want to get involved in the film industry, and for those big budget productions to look at the South Coast as a viable option for filming locations and talent and all that good stuff.
Yeah, because Hollywood has always treated New Bedford and the surrounding areas as a location shoot. They haven't set up anything permanent here. So what I see happening with this group of filmmakers that you're part of, well, a loose group of filmmakers that you're part of, you're facing that decision, aren't you? Do I leave to pursue my craft, or do I stay? And it's the decision of, can you stay and nurture something here and build something here? With a lot of younger generations, there's been a lot of creative talent and brain drain where they go to school locally or somewhere else and then they don't end up coming back. How does it feel to be a builder and working to enrich the area culturally, but also financially, because you want this to be a real industry here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do a lot of networking, and I don't love that word networking because it sounds so like formal and disconnected. I meet a lot of awesome people from our area constantly. I feel like I'm meeting at least one or two new people a week who are in film and in all different facets, sound design, composing, animation, like all different parts. And the conversation always comes up, when are you moving? Where are you gonna move? It's
Mhm.
like it's just such a thing. And for me too, all the way back to high school when I started to realize this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, the next thought was, okay, are we moving to California or Georgia or New York? And when's the right time to do that? And saving up all that money to do that, like all these real life considerations you have to think, how do I make this dream work? And I'm not naive to the fact that there's so like Hollywood, you can't just replace Hollywood. There's so much history there, and they have everything set up for film, but there is so much here. And the more people that you talk to here, it's like they're making this happen, and there's so much entrepreneurial spirit that is what's needed if you're going to build something here. And we have a few, studio lots in Massachusetts, over the last like 15 years has been work that's snowballing, and we're getting somewhere. So it's great that, I'm trying to make that happen too in the South Coast. Because I mean, if you want to get really granular too, like we have the beautiful locations that you can't really find. Like we have the mountains relatively close by, the cities, the ocean front, like all of that, the crew. We have amazing, talented, not jaded crew, which is huge. Um, yeah, and then we have the spaces for studio lots too, which is, a whole separate conversation, but yeah, that's all really great stuff. I was gonna say something else too, but I forgot. Oh, going with the not jaded thing, like the locations that we have here, we have really cool historical locations. And, you take that same place, you put it over on the West Coast, and they're gonna ask you for 20 grand to shoot there for 2 days. Like over here, it's not really like that. You can do a lot more with a lot less financially, which for independent filmmaking is huge. And then, the bigger stuff too, the bigger budget things, that's always a consideration, is how to balance the budget and all that. So yeah, anyways, we got it going on over here.
It's smart in multiple ways, because I've heard second and third hand also that the Hollywood film industry still hasn't recovered from the strikes yet. There are a lot of people who used to work not working in Hollywood. So, in making your own hub, in making it something that's more indie, more collaborative, in a way, you can also be protecting your career against whatever pitfalls Hollywood is experiencing at the time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. The writer's strike did a dent in the industry. And before that, it was the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And now looking forward, they're anticipating another strike with the IATSE at the end of the summer. So yeah, it's a hard time of limbo for those bigger budget Hollywood productions. And I do see this is where indie film is starting to thrive, which as an indie filmmaker myself is great. But um yeah, yeah, it's like you gotta learn how to do it on your own, and hopefully the big dogs can get their things in order.
Just to cycle back to the New Bedford Film Festival for a moment, we've been talking a lot about the local aspect, but there was an international aspect to the festival, wasn't there?
Yes, yes. So we had, I believe, two films that were international. One from India, which was about a trans person working in the school system. And I saw clips of that and it was beautiful. Really stellar stuff. And then the other one, which I had the pleasure of meeting the filmmaker, was called Remember Me, and it's from Germany. The filmmaker is his name is Lucas, forgot his last name. um, but it's a really beautiful piece based on his personal experiences of early onset dementia, and it's a specific type of dementia that is, I guess, pretty common, but not really known about or properly diagnosed, and something that is still being learned about in the medical community. And he himself is a doctor. So, yeah, it's just really, really beautiful. The cinematography is stunning. The performances are incredible. He acts in it as well. And yeah, just it is so well done. And just the fact too that it's from Germany is incredible. And um, yeah, I asked him, I got lunch with him one day and I asked him, how did you find the New Bedford Film Festival? And I think he said he was just going through Film Freeway, which is the platform where all film festivals host, and you can kind of look through. And he said it just looked like a beautiful area and, right off the coast. And it seemed like we had some good stuff going on. And being the inaugural year, it's exciting. So yeah, he just said, like this was the place to go, and he loved it here. He said it was so beautiful, and yeah, yeah, it's really exciting.
And now you said inaugural year. So is there plans to bring it back for 2025 or 2026? When will we next see a New Bedford Film Festival?
Yes, yeah, there's plans to bring it back and I think we're sticking to April. I'm pretty sure. Um, so yeah, looking to make it a yearly thing for sure. We got a great reception this year. It was awesome meeting people from all over and, within New England too. And yeah, we're planning to make it a yearly thing. And then in between the big festival weekend, wanting to keep up with workshops and classes and networking events and fun stuff, and just keeping people connected is the big thing. And I'm personally just really excited because me and my director of photography, who's also my long-term partner, we had a meeting a couple years ago with this really talented gaffer and cinematographer, Ben Held. And anybody who works in the industry around here knows Ben. He works on everything. He's incredible. He's so talented. And he has great gear as well. And we met up with him and he was like, I'm trying to get people to be more connected and more of a community, and we're meeting outside of set. That's key. He's like, I want people to stay here. I don't want them to move out to Georgia and New York and all that. And I remember sitting there and I was like, yeah, that's great. And I agree, but I don't know how that's going to happen. And so now I see like the New Bedford Film Festival is a big heavy hitter and it's growing. And that's one of the ways that we can make that happen.
Let's talk a little bit more about what's happening for you in your career. I heard you were going off, or have you gone off to Europe?
Yeah, so I'll be going to France in September for a couple weeks, and that is for a writer's retreat. It's called the Roca Verde Writer's Retreat, and that'll be about 3 hours south of Paris in the Dordogne region, in a castle, which is really cool. And there I'll get to develop my short To Dust I'll Return that won the local Emmys. I'll be expanding that into a feature and working on it with a mentor who's in the industry, real producer, and getting to meet other people from all over the world who are working on their own projects. And yeah, there'll be a pool of mentors too, so I'll get to meet with them all And yeah, so that'll be exciting and seeing what the next step for that is, because I've never done a feature. I've never written or personally, I know I've worked on features as a producer assistant, but this is a whole new world for me. And yeah, it's exciting.
Wonderful. What a great opportunity. And
Yeah.
and let's get back for a second. So what have you done as you've worked your way up to here?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've always done the short film thing since high school, and then they got naturally more serious in college, with insurance and location and like all that serious stuff. So, um, I was learning how to do all that. And then the very first feature set I worked on was right after graduation in 2021. And I got that gig through Steve Feinberg, who's the director of the film and TV office in Rhode Island. Really nice guy. And he had known me because I had gotten a scholarship. It's called the Winnie Brownell Scholarship through the Rhode Island International Film Festival. And so he's familiar with me already. And he got me on to Space Oddity, which was directed by Keir Sedgwick. And it has Kevin Bacon and Madeline Brewer. And so that was a really great experience. I was a production assistant on that and also a producer's assistant on that a few weeks in. Learned a whole lot about real feature film movie making. I think it was like a $3 million budget or something like that. So still indie for Hollywood standards, but huge for me. Yeah, so that was great. And then later that same year, the production coordinator, who was like my immediate boss on that, he got me an interview on a different feature that he was working on in Central Mass called Salvation. And so I was the producer's assistant on that. The producers on that film liked me enough to hire me to their company, and I traveled with them to New Mexico, and I worked on a horror feature called Squealer
Mhm.
with Tyrese Gibson and a few other cool people. And that one's out. It's a fun like B movie serial killer thing. And then after that, went back here. I doctored with my buddy Nick Doyle, a feature that was in need of some help with Brian Cox. So we did that in New York for a little bit. And then after that, I just started working on my own projects, was back in the area, and that's where Sweet Freedom, I was like, I want to do something. After spending time in the Southwest, back in New England, I love being back here. Let's do something about a historical figure from our area that not many people know about. And that's where Sweet Freedom was born.
And then the other thing I'm curious about too, you've done a lot of work and been in different positions behind the camera, but you also act too. What has being an actor, how has that informed your work? And also what have you done as an actor? Yeah.
Yes, thank you for asking. Acting, I've loved acting since I was in middle school. And even before then, my parents will tell you I would put a movie on the TV and then I memorized these, like Beauty and the Beast, for example. I would get up in front of the TV and do it all to an imaginary audience. So I've always had a dramatic flair. And yeah, in middle school, I started theater. High school, it was awesome, so much fun. And then college, I just got so busy, I didn't have the time to do the theater program there, which was kind of heartbreaking. And so after graduation, I started taking acting classes with my best friend's godfather, William Exifaris, who is a great local actor. He's worked on some big things, Ted, Defending Jacob with Chris Evans, The Equalizer, a bunch more. And so for the last 3 years, since 2021, I've been taking acting classes with him and really started to understand what acting is on camera versus the stage because they're very different. And I initially took the classes because acting's fun and I love it, but I had to focus on becoming a better director and knowing how to speak the language to my actors because there is like this different language that you really should know if you're going to be an effective director. and get the performances that you're looking for. So that was my main focus. And then like 3 or 4 classes later, over all these years with Billy, I was like, oh man, I'm falling back in love with the actual acting part. And something clicked, and I went from appreciating it and loving it to really deeply understanding what acting on camera is. And it's all about the inner life and how you can build that out. And yeah, so in last year, 2023, I decided to put myself out there as an actor. Took some headshots and put together a resume, and just started, pitching myself for projects. And I've worked on a couple so far, a couple shorts, and I have a feature that's filming soon, so that'll be fun. Yeah, and it's kind of growing. So I've gone outside of Billy's acting classes. I just took one with it's called the Actor Playbook with Carolyn Pickman, who's a huge casting director out of Boston, and that was awesome and so fulfilling and educational. So yeah, just anything I can get in terms of acting, I'm eating up and going to any classes I can, and just meeting new people and playing off of other actors is so fun. And yeah, definitely want to keep exploring that, and hopefully our bigger productions can come back too, so I can get some experience on them as well.
And because of that acting experience and thinking more about how to portray the inner life on screen, do you think that for you as a director who has experience in front of the camera and behind the camera, do you think that changes how you would give direction to another actor?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I think what's so cool is every actor is different. And so there's definitely a right way to talk to actors. And they say for anybody, any person who wants to be a director, you should take an acting class, even if that's not your goal to be an actor, because you all of a sudden realize it might look easy sitting behind the camera and watching these actors perform, but as soon as you get in front, the whole world changes, and you can feel like all of your neurons, and it's like it's terrifying, kind of. So learning that was huge, and things that would help, just putting myself in their shoes was really great. And then taking all these classes and just continuing with it, I'm watching other people and how they perform and how they build their inner life, and it's so personal to each person. And that is, I think, the real art of being a good director, is learning who your actor is and what makes them tick, and how to get to that and speak their language. So not only are you speaking the actor's language, you're speaking, David Pradas, Paulina Konak. It's like you have to learn them. That's the fun part for me.
Might also inform how you cast too. If you are familiar with somebody's work, or you cast a lot of people cold that you've never worked with before.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so mostly my go-to thing is to just put out casting calls, and this is for my projects, and there's been a few other projects I've just been a producer on as well, and have led the charge on casting.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, what I like to do is to just put out the information and see what comes back. And you get to meet a lot of new people that way. And there's awesome talent in New York that we've pulled from a lot, as well as New England, of course. And just seeing the different take on the character is huge, because again, like having that experience in front of the camera, I now know that you may write a character one way and be so confident that this is the way that they are and have a picture in your head. And you're going to definitely find people who match that exactly. And maybe that's who you go with. But there's so much fun exploration to be had. And there's people who come in with a different interpretation that might make you go, oh, this is way better. Let's go in this direction. So that's what I love to do. There's been some instances where I'll do kind of like we write something to shoot quickly, like a 48-hour film, for example. And we've worked with this actor before. I know he can do this. Let's just plop him right in there. Or I've been dying to work with him. Let's get him right on in here. So yeah, kind of a mix depending on the kind of project.
Oh, sure. All right. And here's a tricky one. Would you ever cast yourself in your own movie?
That's a good question too. Um, and it's funny you say that. So this year, so we're in post-production for Sweet Freedom right now. And it takes a lot of energy and it's great. And we're seeing that through. But this year I've decided my focus is more on performing and finding myself as an actor and trying out different things. And part of that is there are a couple scripts that I'm writing right now with some different people, and I'll be in front of the camera. So that's what we're working on. And I don't want to direct those. I want to find a good director who loves the story of the project and knows the vision and can make it their own. And yeah, I'll just be in front of the camera.
All right, and let's step back a little more. Before you were, when you just had the glimmer of the idea that you wanted to do something in movies, how about sharing some of the movies that inspired you, your favorite movies, your movies that made you want to be this filmmaker?
Great question. I love your questions.
Oh, thank you.
Um, yes. So the best films of all time, Lord of the Rings trilogy. That is what made me want to be a filmmaker. And I still watch them and I still get that glimmer of hope. And this industry can take a lot out of you, but if you go back to the things that inspired you in the first place, it's so fulfilling. And Lord of the Rings just does it for me. I mean, even Sweet Freedom was a 5-day shoot, and it was kind of grueling because we had picture animals, children. It's a period piece, multiple locations, inside and out, dealing with the elements. Like it was a lot. And halfway through, I took the time to just listen to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, and I was right back in it. So Lord of the Rings for sure. I love Tarantino as well. He's definitely influenced my work, and Alfred Hitchcock for
Oh,
sure.
nice. Favorite Tarantino's, favorite Hitchcock's?
Oh, The Birds.
Mhm.
This is so good. And Vertigo
Yeah.
from Hitchcock. Oh my gosh. Just, it's the master of suspense.
And high impact emotionally and visually.
Yes. Yes. So ahead of his time and
Mhm.
so inventive and actually in To Dust I'll Return, this is so funny. In To Dust I'll Return, I stole from both Hitchcock and Tarantino.
Oh,
And
tell how.
yes, so with Hitchcock's device, like the bomb under the table,
Mhm,
and revealing to the audience that the bomb is under the table before the characters know,
mhm,
that is kind of what I was doing with To Dust Will Return.
mhm.
And with Tarantino, I pretty much copied his opening scene for Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet. I mean to.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's good. It's good. I don't know what your specific tastes are, but it's a really well-made movie, and I want to say that you'll love it.
Well, and I also love Lillian Harvey. I got introduced to her movies when I was living in Western Mass, and I know he does a tribute to Lillian Harvey, British German musical movie star. So he
Oh,
references her in that one. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love the way that he does tributes to things too. It's just awesome. It makes it so full of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, those are huge for me. And in Sweet Freedom too, um, I sent the script off to a few trusted collaborators, great writers, and they were on my producing team as well. And the first notes that I got from both of them were oh, this is Tarantino vibes. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll take that.
Oh, it's not a bad thing. For everybody from pen and paper to on screen, they all copy their masters in some way. I mean, look at Martin Scorsese. He loves classic Hollywood and he has brutal gangster movies that have tributes to Hollywood melodramas snuck in.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so cool the way you can like take, inspiration and then like twist it into your own thing, and it's awesome.
Have you ever taken something from your real life, but not really put it in the movie, but put the emotion in of something going on for you in real life?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think with To Dust I'll Return, the feature film version, um, that's definitely been a thing, is taking some of my real life and putting it in there. Yeah, so and ironic, and we'll see where it goes, like still working it out, but the love of performance and the idea of that, wanting, you know, to perform to people and to be remembered and things like that. That is what I'm toying with right now for To Dust Will Return, which is a different direction than the short film has. Um, but yeah, so we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. Well, for anybody who wants to keep up with you and your work, how can they follow you? Where can they see any of your movies if possible? Website or social media? What can they do now that they're more curious to learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm really active on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is Alyssa, Alyssa dot Botelho, Botelho. And then on Facebook, same thing, Alyssa Botelho. And I'm on LinkedIn as well, and I'll post some updates there too, if people have that. And then my website, alyssabotelho.net, I post updates and I have my reels on there, some projects that are publicly available. Um, and then I have a subscription list that you can sign up for, and a newsletter type thing. So with big things, I'll send out updates through that.
Well, great. I'm glad people can learn more, follow along, watch. And thank you very much for being a guest today. This is my very first interview for Spellbound with Beth Ann as a vlog and podcast. And I've had so much fun speaking with you and learning about you and your work more.
Thank you. I mean, really, thank you for thinking of me, and being the first is an honor. I love your work. I love your writing, and just everything that excites you excites me too. And um yeah, just thank you so much, Beth Ann. This is great. I really enjoyed talking to you.
And thank you to everybody who's watched or tuned in today. This has been a special edition of Spellbound with Beth Ann for the Luso World Cinema Blogathon, celebrating the Lusitanic influence on world cinema. So thanks for sitting a spell and following us along on this journey.